Hey, my friends. Starting a little early because I don't know when if I'm gonna be home at 3 o'clock to do this stream. But today, chapter 5, book 3, chapter 5. All right, chapter 5. Welcome home, Stephen, my love, Julia says as he walks down the rear loading ramp of his shuttle, followed by Rena and Hannah as they both hug each other shamelessly. As the king, the queen, and Stephen's parents walk up too. All smiles now. Thank you, beloved, Stephen says as they hug. He kneels to look at his twins and his baby brother, all of whom are sleeping in their stroller that Julia, I need to fix that, sorry, pushes in front of her. He stands up to bow to the king and his wife, the queen, then hugs his parents. Behind Stephen, some of the samurai warriors follow him out, all clad in their cloaks and their weapons clipped to their belts. Now Took walks up and bows to the samurai, happy to be united with warriors he has not seen in some 20 years. He grasps hands with most of the warriors as they all walk off. To talk about the war battle just won at the new samurai temple, is slowly being erected in the downtown of the city. Julia is the first student to enter the temple so far, as she is second samurai to train in decades. Stephen, I think Julia is ready. Sorry, is more than ready for her challenges. Now, Natuk says, as they all walk to the temple. Really? Stephen asks, smiling. Would you set up her challenges for me, please? Of course, Master Stephen. Natuk says, smiling too. Make it as stringent as possible. Not easy stuff for her, Stephen says. Of course not, Stephen. Natuk says, you going to take her to Mars and the face? Of course I am. Before we start her challenges, then we will go after the Falcon project, whatever it is. So far, it sounds like a teleportation device that can cut travel time from hours to days or then days to mere seconds. Done. Natuk says that's what they've been able to glean from the imperial prisoners they captured at the battle on Beta Gaizel. We better do all this soon. I think I better fix that. Sorry, hang on. Gotta add one little word. We better do all of this soon before the scientist and her project disappears from Beta Valensis. Stephen says. So I'd like for you and some of your fellow warriors to work excuse me, to work on her challenges while they take Julia and our families to Mars. Deal? Deal, partner. Natuk says. Both men shake hands briefly. Julia walks up and sees them talking about her challenges. Julia, please come with me and our families to Mars. Then we are going to prepare you for the challenges. Your challenges. Oh, let me change that. Fix that. Change that from you to your. Okay. To your challenges. Prepare you for your challenges. Okay, I got it. Sorry. On Mars, you will go to the face and retrieve your crystal for your samurai sword. Yes, Master, Julia says, with a straight face as she bows. You'll come with us and take on the imps to try to get our hands on this Falcon Project device. It'll be your first time as a samurai warrior if you pass the challenges. And I know you are more than ready, Princess. Natuk says. Thank you, Master Natuk. Julia says, bowing excitedly. As they talk, a reconnaissance craft is on the edge of the Theta Valensis system, watching the Imperials, who has not left the system yet, sending data coded signals to Prime about what they have so far. This is a Grumman Boeing E3212B Super Sentry AWACS, fitted with a cloaking device. Sub-11, we will be leaving for Mars tomorrow, Stephen says. You will meditate to sense the crystal you need for your samurai sword, understood? Yes, master, Julia says, nodding. They return to their villa and sleep through the night, and Stephen fixes breakfast for her and himself. Sorry, I can't talk. After feeding the twins and making sure they are okay, as his mom and mother-in-law will come in to prepare the kids for the flight to the Sol System and Mars. At the same time, he goes to the temple to prepare himself for the flight, letting Julia sleep in and meditate. He then goes to meet with Sepp Dietrich on the Eagle. I need to get a drink. Sorry, guys. I'll be right back. There's a fuzzy face in my house. There's a fuzzy kitty in my bed. Who's the fuzzy cat with the name of Osha? I see you lying there in my bed. All right, I'm back. I want to get me a drink so don't get parched by the time I get done talking to you guys. Right there. No, you're not coming over here. Okay. Oh, yeah, okay. Make sure where I was. The Eagle is ready for takeoff with the crew compartment set up for all three families' accommodations, Sepp says as they walk up into the compartment of the Eagle. Thanks, Sepp, Stephen says, nodding. As he looks around the compartment, he notes the temporary modular walls that have been added, creating quarters within the space. However, there's still room for comfort in the compartment. The cockpit and the med bay are still accessible, as are the food dispenser and gun controls. Let's add one little word. I fixed that. We should be ready for liftoff whenever you and the families are ready, Admiral, Sepp says, smiling. Still not used to calling the young kid Admiral. I think we should be airborne by 0900 easily, Stephen says. The time, 0630. 6:30 in the morning, 9 o'clock in the morning. If you don't know military time. We'll be waiting, brother, Sepp says, nodding as they walk into the cockpit. All onboard systems are primed for anything that comes up. Good. I think Rena would love to come along. She is the best Neva computer compared to the ship's computer. And you know that her people need very little, if any, sleep out compared to you and I. Natsuko will be coming along too, right? No. He'll be here preparing for Julia's samurai challenges for when we return, Steven says. I understand, Natuk, my partner, Sep says, nodding and knowing that the princess is wise and would make a great samurai warrior. Do you think she's ready for the next step in her life? For this next step in her life? I look at her skill levels. They are higher than my own were at this stage in my training, Steve says. I will not give her any bias just because she's my wife. She will face the challenges that were as rough for me as they will be for her. Not good. Sep is working on switching on the ship's computers and engine, making sure the systems and his baby were ready for takeoff in a few hours. He had already done a walk around the vessel, checking all systems and struts and such. Everything is A-OK, and he now sits back in his chair and relaxes. Picks up, you know what? He picks up a mug of coffee and sips from it. I don't forget that. As soon as we get back and complete the challenges, we will go after the Theta Valensis system and the Falcon project, Steven says. We'll be ready, kid, Sep says, nodding. By 8:30, Steven's family, his parents, and the royal family arrives. Everyone loads onto the Eagle with no pomp and circumstance. The royal family was coming back in a few days. The king has put his viceroy in charge until his return. Someone he trusts implicitly. He trusts not many people, but he grown up with this man and served as viceroy to his late father. Now, we should be back in a couple of days, Steven says as he stops at the base of the ramp to the Eagle. Roger that, Steven. Natuk says, nodding. Have you completed Julia's challenges? Steven beams. Affirmative. Natuk says, beams back. They're going to be grueling as yours were. Understood. Thank you, friend, Steven beams as they grasp hands. Steven now walks up the ramp into the interior of the Eagle. It's not as spacious as it usually is, with additional cabins in the back, but it's suitable for their needs. Then again, they aren't carrying no cargo or picking up any. This is a special mission to Mars. The Eagle lifts off and makes for orbit, escorted by a couple of Vipers. Moments later, the Eagle jumps to work. Off they go. So I like to say, off to go in the wild blue yonder. No, not really. Mars, my friends, Steven says as they circle the small moon Deimos to face the still deserted, terraformed red planet Mars. Off in the distance, they can see the debris field that used to be planet Earth. A pretty picture. And the wreckage of the final battle of the Defender to no avail. Where do we land? Nina asks now as she sits at the control cockpit at the co-pilot station. Mining station number 8, Seb. Steven says, it's closest to the face. You know the place. Sorry, got thirsty. I have a sleepy kitty cat in my bed. I know it well. That's where we found all that delicious whiskey, Sep says, smiling. Amen to that, Stephen says, smiling too. Said that the Empire did all this to the human race with no care in the world. Sorry, the organization. But thank God we have allies that took in a bunch of homeless people and a ragtag fleet of ships. Sepp says. And to think we found out later that there was an imperial spy among our own government. Stephen's dad says, seated behind Sepnel. She'll pay for that Travis treachery against our people. Stephen says flatly. Oh God, yes she will. Rena says. She and Sep dive down to the planet's surface and make for mining station number 8 in the face. They land right on the outskirts of the deserted town, now ransacked of all valuables by space pirates and the like. They do make accommodations in the same saloon where they found the whiskey, better known as Jack Daniels and Jim Beam. You wait for us here. We should be back by dawn tomorrow, Stephen says as he and Julia sit in the saddle of his Harley Davidson R6V speeder bike. Julia is hugging Stephen's waist, waiting for him to take off. Love you all. He zooms off at his regular pace. Fast and reckless. Sorry, I couldn't resist. Forgetting that he's the passenger behind him. Until she hugs him tighter. Sorry, I forget myself sometimes. He slows down for his wife. It's okay, Stephen, Julia says, smiling as she has the wind in her face. I'm enjoying it. Stephen speeds up a little, but not at the same speed they had been traveling at moments before. He zips around the wreckage of a downed Viper. The pilot's still inside the burnt-out cockpit. His face just a mummified remains. Take out the A. Sorry, guys. Then they see a couple of wrecked speeder cars and burnt husks of trees everywhere. Last time he was here, he wasn't interested in the scenery. He was just interested in visiting the face. My God, the Empire hit Mars hard, Julia says over the rest of the wind. I know, Stephen says, closing his eyes for a moment, just as they reach the base of the face of Mars. Oops. Near the climbing steps leading up to the cave where the crystals are stored. From here you must go alone, and I cannot go with you. Take only your sword hilt. I understand, Master, Julia says, as she walks to the base of the monolith, noticing hand and footholds carved into the side of the rock face. How far up do I have to go? Climb 15 meters straight up. That's a lot of climbing. I took the same climb already, and I had Tegas's disembodied voice for company. You can do it. I know you can. Just don't look down. It's a bit of a climb and a bit of a fall. 15 meters is a lot of feet. I don't know how high that is, but I know that's a lot of meters. I'm nervous, not scared, Julia says as she takes hold of a hand grip in the rock face. She starts her climb up into the unknown, following his instructions to close her eyes when she approached the one cave opening. Her desired crystal will lead her from there. Dawn etches along the distant eastern horizon as the sun peaks above the surface. Now, just as Julia climbs down from the caves high above. Mission completed, Master, she says, smiling. Show me, Stephen says, smiling now too. Julia pulls out her sword hilt and presses a button, and a pink-colored electro blade emerges from the business end of the hilt, the wrong end to be facing. Handing it to him now. Her hilt resembles a piece of smooth, polished tree limb, much like the one Tegas used to carry. She fashioned it after his hilt, but with a few touches of her own. It can be used one-handed or two-handed as needed. He deactivates it now. Beautiful, my apprentice, he says as he hands it back to her. Thank you, master, Julia says. As she clips it into her gun belt. Now you're ready for your challenges, Stephen says, nodding. I am? Julia asks, surprised. Yes, you are, Julia. Trust me, the challenges are just that. Challenges to your wits, strength, and powers. The easiest one is the final challenge. I will say that and nothing more. I cannot wait, Julia says, smiling. When we get back to Prime, I want you to meditate for 26 hours straight. Your challenges begin at dawn the next morning. Understood? Yes, master, Julia says, nodding her understanding. They return to the mining town a little later, and a couple hours later, the Eagle lifts off. From Prime. After saying a silent prayer for the 7 billion people who had died on what was once called planet Earth. 7 billion dead. Eagle lands on Prime later that day as the sun sets. You can spend the day today without meditation, Stephen says. Sorry. Thank you, Master. But tomorrow at dawn, I want you to meditate till the following dawn when your challenges begin. Stephen says, be in good shape and ready for this. You'll be traveling around the planet for 26 hours straight, non-stop. You'll have a pouch of energy protein bars and water bottles. With any call for backup supplies on a need basis. I understand, Stephen, Julia says, smiling. Stephen knows that she's in excellent shape and ready for the longest day of her life. He spent 28 hours on Ukrainia Prime taking his own challenges. And he passed through some tense areas of the global metropolis. There are none of these areas of Centauri Prime, but there thankfully are no oceans between. I gotta fix that. Sorry. Our oceans, but there are thankfully are oceans between the continents, so she can run. I gotta fix that. Sorry, guys. Hold on. But there are oceans between the continents with land. Okay. There thankfully are oceans wide, deep oceans between the continents with land bridges connecting the land masses so she can run around the planet unhindered by boat or other conveyance like that. But she will be passing through the polar regions, both north and south. So I gotta rewrite that too. Both north and south. Stephen has seen the challenges Natuk has set up for her. The morning of her challenge, she stands at the start-finish line as Stephen Another samurai warriors stand watching as they watch the appearance. What start? As they watch for the appearance. Okay, I keep seeing stuff I miss. For the appearance of the sun to peek over the distant mountains in the east. A digital clock hangs over the line. Stephen stands to her side, his hand raised. Sorry, arm itches. I gotta do some major changes. He sees the pre-dawn light of the sun rising as the sun makes its appearance. On three, Stephen says. On three, begin. Stephen says, "Be back here at this hour with 24 chips in hand, or you will fail and have to redo the whole challenges again." Redo the challenges again. Understood? Yes, Master. Julia says, nodding. He told her to go at her own pace. She's racing the clock, not another warrior. On one hip, she has a pouch to deposit the chips in when she receives them. She's nervous, having trained for months since Stephen and Natuk started her training. 1, Stephen says, hand raised above his head. 2, Julia says. 3, both say as Stephen drops his arm and she jogs into the early dawn light. She trots through Capital City and encounters a challenge as she is about to exit the city and earns her first chip. She travels along the coast, heading south, and experiences her second, third, and fourth chip along the way. She realizes the challenges are stiffer the further she travels. By midday, she's earned 8 of a possible 24 chips and not failed a single challenge. That's good. She also passed through a sports arena, having to pass through the entire arena as she earned another chip. At the same time, Stephen and the families watch via video drones as they follow her route the whole way. She has a drone carrying water, food protein sticks, and food protein sticks for her to call for when needed. She now heads south to the South Polar regions where she encounters herds of Ligata and bear-like creatures similar to polar bears. I haven't given them a name. That was something I just created the last minute. She also encounters a group of AI robots made to look like Imperial troopers. She dispatches them in moments of facing them, using her samurai sword and her own telekinesis powers. She encounters a previously undiscovered set of ruins that predate their GFS. She explores it, but is still well ahead of time. Change up the schedule. Sorry, guys. Right there. Better. If I haven't already changed it, I'll change it later. She heads north towards the western continent, and some of the factories operated there, earning another chip along the way. These do not spew smoke or smog into the environment. She does pass vats of molten steel and a couple leather-making factories. She knew that the people of Centauri Prime did not try to pollute the atmosphere in any way, and have kept it that way for generations too. She reaches the North Polar region by nightfall, earning 16 of a possible 24 chips in the process. She passes the North Polar region in a raging blizzard, but she had worn her new body sheath heat emitter that her husband had invented. One of the gloves and boots that Stephen had invented before they left Orion. It had been in mass production since that time as well. However, she wore a pair of winter goggles with IR infrared and night vision capabilities built into them, earning another 2 chips in the process. She encounters another 24 drone Imperial troopers as she moves to the southern, warmer reaches of the northern tundra. She dispatches them in moments without being hit by enemy fire. She does this well before midnight, stopping for a brief meal and drink when she gets hungry. She earns another 2 chips in the process. And she's well ahead of schedule to finish ahead of the full 26 hours into the challenge. Meal break was scheduled into the challenge. She rested a moment before starting her final leg of the challenge. 25-30 hours. Need a drink. 25-30 hours, drink time. All right. Here's the fun part. Make room for another samurai warrior to pass, please, friends. Stephen says as Julia approaches the start-finish line ahead of time. Everyone parts as Julia approaches, limping a little, but not out of shape. After nearly 26 hours traveling around Centauri Prime, he can tell that her pouch is heavy with chips, too. Sounds like a good idea. All right, last page. Julia drops to her left knee at Stephen's feet. Challenge complete, Master. She says she has the heavy pouch out in front of her. Shall we see if you passed? Stephen says, taking the heavy pouch from his wife. He opens the pouch and pulls out 1 chip at a time and drops them on the ground in front of Julia. What are you doing? She asked, confused. Remember when I told you that the final challenge would be easy? This is it. He says as he drops the 24th and final chip at her feet. Rise, samurai warrior, as Natuk drapes a cloak across her shoulders now. Everyone, including her own father and mother, smiles and cheers for her. Stephen, Natuk, and other samurai touch blades with the newest samurai to join the vaunted samurai order. The first female to hail from Centauri Prime. 2. They then retired to Seps for a raucous party that lasts until midnight. And that, my friends, is chapter 5. I have a lot of changes I got to make into my book. I already thought I'd done them all. But I got to go back and do some changes to my story. I already did some. I thought I'd done them all. But we'll fix that. I want you all to know it's been fun reading my books. My first book is in editing, has been edited. I don't know what's next in my future with this publication. I'm nervous. I'm scared. But then again, I'm also excited because I get to show my ability as a writer. Hopefully people will like it. And if they do, I'll be buying my book. But if you don't, that's okay. I want you all to thank you. I want to thank you all. I want to say goodbye. I got to go back in and do some major editing in the chapter 5. Thought I had finished all the editing, but we'll fix that. I got some changes I got to make. But I want to say thank you and goodbye again. I'll see you tomorrow. I might finish chapter 6 and chapter 7 because they're not very long either. But then again, chapter 6 There's one more battle gonna happen in this book. Might have to do some changes on that. But thank you for listening. Bye again. I keep saying goodbye, but I don't. This time is it.